Hello, boys and girls. Ms.Odom here. I know that this is a little bit different for everyone. If you're watching this video, it means that we are practicing or we're doing NTI, which means it's at-home learning, and that just is where we're not together in the classroom, but we can still be together through the computer, and we can still learn and do fun things together, and read our stories and do art and do all of that exciting stuff that we would usually do in class together. So I'm going to start with reading us a story called Brave Young Knight. Now this is our story for the month of August, and this book is just about being brave, and it's about a knight who he shows his kingdom, and he shows all the villages what it means to be a real brave knight. And bravery has lots of different meanings, so we're going to talk about that for the month of August. And you know, being brave is really important, especially starting a new school like all of you have. I know going to preschool can be a little scary. It can make us sometimes a little sad being away from our moms and dads. So that's what we're going to be talking about for the month of August. It's just being brave and how we can do that together, because you know we want to show bravery, but we want to be together and we want to do it, and we just want to be happy and have fun. So before I get started reading this story, I want to talk about the book itself. So this is the front of the book. This is the front cover of the book. And on the front cover, you're going to find the title, which the title is right up here. It's called Brave Young Knight. Then you're also going to find the author. And the author means it's the person who wrote the book. And who wrote our book today was Kingsbury. And then we have the illustrator. And the illustrator means it's the person who drew and colored the pictures. And that means our illustrator today is Gabrielle Grignard. Now when I turn the book over, this is called the back of the book, the back cover. And on this book, they have a little picture, and it looks like they have their shield and their swords and their crown from the knights. Then we have right here, this part of the book is called the spine. And the spine of the book is what holds the book together. See, without the spine, we would not be able to have our book not fall apart. And so just like books, you and I have spines, and our spines are located back here on our backs, and they help us stay together. They help us from falling apart and being all jiggly and wiggly. So it is very important that our book has the front cover, the back cover, and our spine. So now that we know about this book, and throughout the year, we're going to talk about books, and I'm going to ask you guys, what is this? What part of the book is this? What part of the book is this? So that's good to, when you're reading books, to just really look at the book and get to know it. So now let's get started reading The Brave Young Knight. Show me your way, O Lord. Teach me your paths. Guide me in your truth and teach me, for you are God, my Savior, and my hope is in you all day long. Psalms 25, 4-5. So it looks like we've got the king, and it looks like we've got his kingdom, and he's looking out on it. So let's see what happens to our brave young knight. There once was a young knight who lived in a village on the west side of the kingdom. In the busy streets and cozy houses of the village, everyone knew the young knight. He could run like the wind, carry a dog under each arm, and solve the toughest puzzles. When the young knight passed by, people smiled and said, "Someday that knight will be named the best and the bravest in the kingdom, and the village will be very honored." So it looks like right here we have the brave young knight. There's his little doggie, and then this must be the village that he lives in, and all of his people. One time, the young knight of the village saw a woman carrying a load of bricks. The young knight hurried to her and said, "Ma'am, may I carry your bricks?" Every day after that, the young knight met the woman at the brickyard and carried a bag of bricks until her house was built. Wow, that's really nice of this knight. He's helping this nice lady carry these heavy, heavy bricks. Wow, very, very brave of him. Another time, the bridge over the water had washed away. The men in the village were puzzled over how much wood they would need to build this new bridge. But the young knight came up with a plan. The men did as the knight said, and sure enough, they figured out exactly how many logs they needed to build the bridge back across the river. So here you go. So you have, So you have the young knight, and you have the village people, and you can see here the bridge and how they figured out how to build it back over their river. But the young knight of the West Village was more than blazing fast, fiercely strong, and deeply intelligent. He was also kind. Once, when the children were out playing, the young knight noticed a boy whose legs hadn't worked since he was born. "Boy," the knight said, "I can be your legs." So he put the boy on his shoulders and ran in circles and across great acres, and the wind whipped through the boy's hair, and they both laughed and laughed. The young knight was kind that way. So this little boy, he couldn't walk, and so the young knight was his legs and helped him and played with him and ran him across the fields and the acres so he could feel what it felt like to run around and feel the wind in his hair. Now the kingdom was made up of 4 villages: the West Village, the East Village, the North Village, and the South Village. The king announced that the bravest knight of the kingdom would be named Prince, and everyone hoped a knight from their village would be chosen. A knight from the East Village was said to be so fast that he could outrun his horse. When the young knight from the West Village heard about this, he practiced his running over and over again. "I'm trying," he told his father, "but I'm not sure if I'm the fastest knight in the land." His father smiled. "My son, the bravest knight is not always the fastest. Follow God, and he will help you run the race." So the young knight wanted to be fast like the other knight was, but his father said, "No, you don't have to be the fastest to be the bravest knight. Be yourself." That's very important. Word traveled around the kingdom that the knight from the South Village was to be so strong that he could carry a horse under each arm. When the young knight from the West Village heard about this, he practiced lifting 3, then 4, then 5 dogs. But he could never manage to lift his horse. "I'm trying," he told his father, "but I'm not sure if I'm the strongest knight in the land." Again, his father smiled. "My son, the bravest knight is not always the strongest. Faith in God will give you the strength you need." So the brave knight, the young little knight here, he wanted to be like the other knight who was said to be very strong, and his father told him, "Don't worry. You do not have to be the strongest knight to be the bravest." So true. News made it through the kingdom that a knight from the North Village was said to be so smart he could solve a puzzle that the village teachers could not. When the young knight from the West Village heard this, he solved every puzzle he could find, but he was never summoned by the village teachers to solve anything for them. "I'm trying," he told his father, "but I'm not sure I'm the smartest knight in the land." His father smiled one more time. "My son, the bravest knight is not always the smartest. Ask God, and he will give you great wisdom." So this knight wanted to be smart and solve all the puzzles like the other knight could, but his father told him, "You do not have to be the smartest to be the bravest." Soon the king called for these 4 knights together. "I will stage a competition," the king said. "Bravery means many things. You'll be tested in speed, strength, and intelligence. At the end of the competition, I will determine which of you is the bravest. The one who will be named Prince of the Kingdom will be the bravest knight of all." And so there is the king, and he is talking to the people, and he's talking to the knights about the competition. The first competition tested their speed. The king lined up all 4 knights at the entrance to the great and mighty forest. "Follow the course through the forest until you reach the finish line at the other end," he said. A few minutes into the race, the knight from the East Village shouted to the others, I know a shortcut. Never mind the course marked out for us." He made a turn off the path and waved to the others. "Follow me." And the knights from the south and north village did just that. But the young knight from the west village stayed the course and crossed the finish line long after the other 3 knights. So, 3 of the knights wanted to not follow the king's rules, and they took a shortcut, and they didn't follow the right path. And the brave little knight, he followed the king's path to cross the finish line. He followed the directions that the king asked him to. The second competition tested their strength. The king said, "In the lumber yard, you will find the biggest log you can carry and that I have set aside from you, and you will bring them back to me." When they reached the lumber yard, the knight from the south village pointed to a different pile of logs. "Some of these are hollow," he said. "We can carry much bigger logs if they are hollow." He nodded at the others. "Come on," he said. "Follow me." And the knights from the east and north village did just that. But the young knight from the west village found a medium-sized log among the logs that the king had set aside for them. He brought it back to the king. This was the smallest of the logs, but it was solid. So, the king asked them to bring back some logs from a pile. Well, then, other knights, they decided to pick out logs that weren't in the pile that the king wanted the logs from because they were lighter. They weren't as heavy. And so then our young knight over here, he brought back the log, and it might have been a little bit smaller, but it was the log that the king wanted. So he followed the king's directions again. The final competition tested intelligence. The king handed each of the knights a treasure map marked with different puzzles. "You must solve each puzzle along the way," the knight told them. "Find your treasure and bring it to me." So now they're going on a treasure hunt. When they each solved a few puzzles, the knight from the north village saw that the knight was not around. Saw that the king was not around. I apologize. "I know a man in town," he said, "who can give puzzle answers for $10. Then, this is your chance," he said as he began to run toward town. "Follow me." And the knights from the east and the south villages did just that. But the young knight from the west village sat on a rock and figured out the puzzles one at a time, as the king directed. When he finally found his treasure and brought it back to the king, the treasures from the other 3 knights were already lined up near his throne. So, instead of not solving the puzzle himself, like the other knights, they didn't solve the puzzle themselves. They went and had some help. So our little knight here, our brave knight, he solved it by himself, like the king asked him to. Tallies were made by the king, and scores were analyzed. The knight from the east village was the fastest, the knight from the south village was the strongest, and the knight from the north village was the smartest. The young knight from the west village thought he would never be named prince of the kingdom. The young knight saw his father in the crowd. His father smiled at him, and the young knight knew, even if he did not win the competition, his father loved him. "I have decided on a winner," the king announced, and the people of the kingdom gathered around to hear. The king looked at the knight from the east village. "You cheated by running off the course. You cannot be prince of the kingdom." Next, the king turned to the knight from the south village. "You stole a hollow log from another pile of lumber. You cannot be prince of the kingdom." Then the king spoke to the knight from the north village. "You lied about solving the puzzles, so you cannot be prince of the kingdom." At last, the king spoke to the knight from the west village. "Well done. You were honest, and you finished the task as you were asked. You did not cheat, so you are the bravest knight of all." So the brave young knight of the West Village became prince, and with God's help, ruled the kingdom with character, kindness, and truth. Because of the brave young knight, the kingdom became the strongest in the land, and the people of the West Village were honored, and they all lived happily ever after. The end. And there he is, becoming the prince of the kingdom. So, this book was about being brave and all the different ways that you can be brave. And like we saw in this book, the knight showed bravery by following the directions like the king had asked him to. He didn't cheat, he didn't lie, and he didn't steal like the other knights did. And so he was named prince at the end of all of the competition. And he didn't think he was going to win because he wasn't like everyone else. But that's okay. It's okay not to be like everyone else. It's okay to be different. And this knight was. And at the end of the day, he was crowned prince, and he was seen as the bravest knight of all. And so I want you all to remember that. That's really important. That bravery and being brave means different things to everyone. And as we go on our journey together through school and through this year, we're going to learn how to be brave and how to be brave together and different ways to do that. So I hope you enjoyed our book, and I look forward to seeing you all in class. And I am all going to send you some air kisses, and I hope you have a great day. Bye!